back at it for another season. Season 7 is here, and just like last year, I'm back with the monthly roundups. For the newcomers that aren't familiar with this format, these videos cover every MLP episode that was released during its respective month. So, let's go over the episodes that were released in the month of April. Episode 1. With this episode, MLP has given us our first one-part premiere, and I welcome it. I think it's a good thing to switch it up a bit and give us a more slice-of-life style premiere. Considering that last season's premiere wasn't the best, let's just say that, I was all for this new approach, especially with Joanna Lewis and Christine Sanko writing it. With the story being less about a grand adventure, this gives us the chance to have a premiere that's more character-driven, and that will give us more insight into some characters that desperately need the attention. Like, say, Celestia? If this is a sign of what's to come with the Sun Princess, I'm totally down for that. It may have been just a little taste, but even that brings so much to her as a character.
But nothing got accomplished in this episode, Sketchy. They introduced the idea of Starlight leaving, but it doesn't go anywhere. Nothing changes.
If you only want to look at the surface and not the actual story, then yes, Kevin, that statement would be true. But we see Twilight have a better understanding of her teacher, and she's starting to see her more and more as an equal. Twilight's view of Celestia has slowly become less and less of a fantasy, and what we got here was a small but important step forward. Where do they go from here? That remains to be seen. But just because there wasn't some major change to the status quo, doesn't mean that nothing was accomplished. Celestial Advice was a solid premiere. Not sure where it stands among the rest besides being better than last season's, but it's a good one for sure. Also, the new changelings are funny and friggin' adorable. Fight me. Episode 2. You guys already know that I'm all for Trixie and Starlight's friendship. And if you don't, well, now you do. The two of them make a great duo, with Starlight being an anchor for Trixie's more bombastic nature. And this is a great step forward for both of them as characters. With Starlight having gotten over her first arc in the last season, I feel the next step is to show her being more confident in herself. My worry was that the same shtick of moping about her past would continue into this season. It made sense in season 6 because of the arc she was going through, but now we need to see a more confident Starlight, and we're getting that here. And we haven't even gotten to the episode's moral, which I feel is one of the strongest ones the show's ever done, mainly because of how much it resonated with me. I can't even begin to tell you how many friendships and relationships I've seen come to an end because people don't tell each other when something is bothering them, but they decide not to because they think it will ruin the friendship. It ties back into one of the show's core values, one of the original elements of Harmony: honesty. And I find that the episodes that revolve around either being honest or being upfront with someone have been the stronger morals that the show has delivered. The problem with the whole mindset of, I can't tell my friend that this thing about them is bothering me because I don't want to hurt their feelings, is that if you just stay quiet, that frustration is going to build and develop into genuine anger, and it'll reach the point where even the tiniest thing will set you off, leaving you with a friend that's both hurt and confused. And this episode used the fact that this world has magic to display this in a way that's both creative and effective. And Starlight was the perfect character to use for this lesson because it's been shown in the past that she has a problem with speaking up. And with her being new to friendship, this is a fresh lesson for her. It's too early to call favorites, but out of the episodes that we're covering today, this one is definitely the standout. It did have yet another vapid, unnecessary song though. Yes, they acknowledge the fact that it was unnecessary, but acknowledging the fact that you took a dump in public doesn't change the fact that you took said dump. And it doesn't get rid of the smell either. Episode 3. Sometimes you need an episode to remind you what show you're watching. I've said time and time again that MLP is, at its core, a slice of life show. And while it has acknowledged its older fan base, it's never strayed from that. Despite how much we like to think that it's more for us than it is for its original intended audience. It's still a kids show, and there's nothing wrong with embracing that. It's one of the reasons why it's lasted this long. While the simplicity of A Flurry of Emotions does make the episode a bit harder to talk about on a critical level, it doesn't make it any less enjoyable. It's a fluff episode, but if the fluff is good, who am I to complain? There's never a dull moment, and I enjoyed Flurry Heart's antics, the highlight being her frantic search for her toy. I'm glad that she can be more than just the cute baby that says cute things. It's a great reminder that baby characters can be used for more than just the "da" factor. It was also another showcase of how Twilight puts unrealistically high bars for herself and how she gets distracted by them, as we discussed in her character talk video. if you enjoy the cuter, more comedic moments of FIM, there's a pretty good chance that this episode is right up your alley. Episode 4. Whoo boy, this was quite the episode to air on my birthday. I'm really conflicted about Rock Solid Friendship. On one hand, they gave us one of the show's more popular supporting characters some much needed characterization, expanded Starlight's friendship circle beyond Trixie, and we got some really funny moments. But on the other hand, Pinkie Pie. I'm gonna let you guys in on something. All jokes aside, I honestly wasn't dreading this episode. Pinkie's characterization was pretty okay in season 6, and I had very few, if any, problems with her. She was killing it in the comics too. I put her Friends Forever issue with Cheese Sandwich as the second best MLP comic of 2016. With both the show and the comics toning down Pinkie's obnoxiousness, I genuinely thought that season 7 would be the season that turned my opinion of her around, just like season 4 did with the CMC. And then we get this. I have never seen an episode embody every single thing I've disliked about Pinkie since A Friend Indeed. And the really disappointing thing about this is that this episode was written by Nick Confalone, the only writer in the show that's ever written good Pinkie episodes, so he was the last person I was expecting to do this. Yes, her behavior was meant to serve the episode's moral, but like Quibblepants and Stranger Than Fanfiction, the dial was turned up several notches too high. Even with all those gripes though, I cannot say that this was a bad episode. What puts this over something like A Friend Indeed, and why it would be incorrect for me to call it a retread, is that they actually acknowledged that Pinkie messed up and had her see the consequences of her actions, instead of trying to justify it with, well, you did help me get laid, so I guess I can let you off the hook. Also, while the lesson Pinkie learns is very similar to A Friend Indeed's, it's not so similar that she's learning the exact same lesson. On top of that, pretty much every scene where Pinkie Pie isn't around was damn near perfect, because despite Confalone's portrayal of her being far below what I normally expect from him, his other strengths are still on full display whenever the story focuses on Maud or Starlight, and Boulder has a pretty good sense of style too. As I said before, we got some insight into Maud's character that makes her a bit more defined, and now that she's friends with Starlight, there may be a good chance we'll see her again. Maybe Maud knows Trixie since she had to work on the rock farm before. In spite of the massive problem I had with Rock Solid Friendship, I still think it's a good episode. It's just a good episode with one really, really, really bad element dragging it down. So, with the April episodes out of the way, there is one thing I must address. Recently, Treehouse TV, a Canadian network, made the decision to air 2 new episodes a week rather than 1. However, I will be sticking to the US air dates for these roundups, and just like the final season 6 episodes, I will not be watching these episodes until they air in the US. With that being said, out of respect for the viewers that wish to do the same, please do not spoil the details of the early episodes in the comments until their US air dates. Really, it's just a matter of courtesy. Don't be a jackass. So that does it for the first season 7 roundup. Honestly, this was the most consistent start we've had to a season in a long time, and I hope that they keep it up for the episodes to come. So what did you think of these episodes? Swarm that comment section below or bug me on social media, and consider supporting me through Patreon or PayPal art commissions. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.